Houston. Good morning. Welcome to the live coverage of the capture of the Dragon cargo vehicle for SpaceX Commercial Resupply Mission 12. Today is Wednesday, August 16th, 2017. We are live inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room today. At the helm, leading the teams here in Mission Control Houston, Flight Director Mary Lawrence. Next to her, the Capcom Andreas Mogensen, a European Space Agency astronaut. In the back of the room, communicating with some of the flight control team in Hawthorne, California, the visiting vehicle officer today, Paul Lane. Over in Hawthorne, California, leading the teams there, Mission Director Paul Tompkins. Up on the International Space Station in the cupola today, at the controls of the robotic arm, are NASA astronaut Jack Fisher and European Space Agency astronaut Paolo Nespoli. They will be the ones to control the station's robotic arm as the Dragon gets into position. They'll use the station's robotic arm to actually capture the Dragon today. That capture time scheduled at 6 a.m. Central Time today. Teams here in Mission Control Houston are rocking and rolling this morning. Getting sitting at about 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Still aiming for that 6 a.m. Central Time capture, but again, running just a little bit ahead of schedule today.
Go ahead, Henry.
Hey, Paolo. Dragon is now inside the 200-meter keep-out sphere. You now have the authority to issue an abort if you don't have comm with us and light is outside the corridor. I'll also like to ask you to perform a Block B corridor monitoring and give us a report on that, please. And then just to clarify an earlier call, we expect to be at the capture point at roughly 10:30, at which point we are no-go for exercise.
We copy no exercise after 10:30. We are monitoring the corridor. Situation is essentially unchanged from the previous report. We reported around 115. Current prior is 188, secondary 182.
Thanks, Paolo. We copy essentially no change from previous report.
That's a good copy, and as soon as we get light, we'll report a little bit better the situation on the corridor.
Thanks, Paolo. We copy.
You just heard confirmation from Capcom relaying information. Again, Capcom Andreas Mogensen relaying information to Paolo Nespoli. He's aboard the International Space Station right now in the cupola at the controls of the robotic arm next to NASA astronaut Jack Fisher, relaying that the Dragon has just passed the 200-meter mark, what's called the keep-out sphere. That just means that the Dragon capsule itself is within a range where, if necessary, Paolo Nespoli and Jack Fisher in the cupola workstation right now have the ability to initiate an abort command in case anything were to go wrong with the Dragon capsule. But again, the Dragon is getting closer to the International Space Station, everything looking nominal. You can see this is a view of what's called the Cuckoo workstation, relays telemetry data to the astronauts aboard the International Space Station. On the right side, you can see the telemetry VV to ISS. That is the visiting vehicle to the International Space Station, the Dragon capsule, that primary number being 172 meters. Again, the flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston running a bit ahead of schedule, everything looking nominal so far. They departed the 250-meter holding point. That should get them set up for to get into range for capture. The next holding point to look forward to will be the 30-meter holding point. Right now, the International Space Station flying 263 statute miles over the South Pacific Ocean, just about to cross over the the southwestern border of Chile. You can see right now, International Space Station is in orbital darkness. That's why the views that you're seeing from the ISS are a bit dark, but we're expecting to see a sunrise here at just about 4:38 Central Time. That'll start illuminating the Dragon capsule as it still approaches the International Space Station, now at 161 meters away from the ISS. Again, on track for that 6 a.m. Central Time capture. We are just actually running ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. This will be just under 2-day rendezvous to the International Space Station after launching 2 days ago. On Monday, August 14th, the Dragon capsule lifted off from Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, atop a Falcon 9 rocket at 11:31 a.m. Central Time. Again, near 2 days later, about to rendezvous to the station, that Dragon capsule carrying nearly 3 tons of science research supplies and hardware to the station. Actually, over 3 tons, 6,400 pounds. Getting a great view of the Dragon capsule in the nighttime as the International Space Station and Dragon fly 263 statute miles above the Earth, now passing over South America. Again, 6,400 pounds of experiments and supplies on board, plenty of science experiments on board, and in addition to some supplies. One of the major experiments going up today is something called CREAM, that will be studying cosmic ray particles. This is similar to another hard piece of hardware on the International Space Station, the alpha magnetic spectrometer measuring antimatter and dark matter, this one measuring cosmic rays. It will be looking at measuring cosmic rays throughout the universe, asking big scientific fundamental questions such as do supernovae supply the bulk of cosmic ray particles, looking into some of the history of cosmic rays within the galaxy, and analyzing the energy spectra of cosmic rays, asking the question if they can result from a single mechanism. The experiment itself will sit outside the Japanese experiment module on the exposed facility. It'll sit there for a period of about 3 years, measuring cosmic ray particles ranging from hydrogen to iron nuclei. From this view, you can see some of the engines firing, Dragon orienting position as it approaches closer to the International Space Station, now passing 126 meters away from the International Space Station, again going towards that 30-meter holding point.
Houston Station on 2 for corridor monitoring.
Go ahead, Paulo.
Okay, Randy, and Andy, we got light. We're able to see Dragon. Situation seems under control. On monitor 3, I see Dragon starboard about one vehicle width and forward about half vehicle length. On monitor 1, I see Dragon about one vehicle width port and half vehicle length forward. How copy?
Thanks, Paolo. We copy. Everything is nominal and expected.
Again, this is the view that Paolo Nespoli, who you just heard relaying the information down to the ground here. Confirmation from Andreas Mogensen, Capcom here in Mission Control Houston. Paolo Nespoli up on the International Space Station next to Jack Fisher, relaying some of the information that he's seeing from this workstation called the Cuckoo. Relays telemetry information from the Dragon back to the International Space Station. He's talking about those cuticles that you can see in the middle of that display. Everything he's reporting is looking nominal. Again, Dragon is a bit ahead of schedule, passing the now 106 meter mark. The International Space Station and Dragon capsule now passing over the eastern coast of Argentina, now over the South Atlantic Ocean. You can see the Terminator line there. The International Space Station and Dragon entering an orbital sunrise. You'll start seeing the Dragon capsule itself being illuminated by the sun as it enters this orbital sunlight.
Houston Station, prime range is 99 meters, secondary 96.95. And situation in the corridor monitoring is unchanged.
Thank you, Paolo. We copy.
Again, everything being reported nominal by Paolo Nespoli from the International Space Station. 2 teams here on the ground. Once again, leading the teams here in Mission Control Houston, Flight Director Mary Lawrence. She's sitting next to Capcom Andreas Mogensen, who is communicating with the 2 astronauts in the cupola today. Working with those team members is Paul Lane, visiting vehicle officer, talking with some of the flight controllers in Hawthorne, California at the Mission Control for SpaceX. Leading that team, again, is Paul Tompkins. Some beautiful high-definition views here as the International Space Station and Dragon pass over the Terminator line. You're now witnessing an orbital sunrise. The sun's starting to illuminate the Earth, too. You can see the morning sun reflecting off some of those clouds over the South Atlantic Ocean. International Space Station traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, along with Dragon chasing very closely behind, just about 90 meters away from the International Space Station. Some great views of Dragon as it is closing in on the International Space Station. The two vehicles, ISS and Dragon, over the South Atlantic Ocean right now, just about 258 statute miles. Dragon getting slightly closer and closer, again, just passing the 80-meter mark, getting closer to the International Space Station, awaiting a capture time. Again, we are slightly ahead of schedule today. The flight controllers powering through the procedures today. The capture time now updated to 5:53 a.m. Central Time. Again, we'll keep you updated to make sure that that is still true, but new capture time we are aiming for now, 5:53 a.m. Central Time. Now 70 meters and closing. Dragon approaching the International Space Station towards that capture time. Again, accelerated to 5:53 a.m. Central Time. Aboard Dragon is 6,400 pounds of scientific experiments, supplies, different kinds of research, over 3 tons aboard, both in the pressurized and unpressurized part of Dragon. One of the benefits of the International Space Station is that it is a national laboratory able to do research and take away the factor of gravity. One of the experiments aboard is the microgravity-grown protein crystals aid, understanding of Parkinson's disease. This is developed by the Michael J. Fox Foundation, Anatrans, and Compaq International. It'll be looking at the crystallization of a protein called LRRK2 under microgravity conditions, one of the proteins that is attached to the Parkinson's disease. Protein crystals in the past have grown larger and more perfectly in microgravity. So they will take a look at this particular protein, LRRK2, and to find the exact shape and morphology of the protein. This will help scientists better understand the pathology of Parkinson's and aid in the development of therapies against this target. Again, one of the many experiments aboard the Dragon capsule today, 6,400 pounds of scientific experiments, supplies, hardware, other types of things aboard. Now 63 meters away from the International Space Station, getting towards that 30-meter holding point, just a little bit ahead of schedule today.
Houston station on 2, approaching 50-meter range, ready for a corridor monitoring report if you like.
Sure, we'll take one. Thanks, Paulo.
Roger, so prior range is 5206, secondary 5102. Looking at monitor 3 and monitor 1, the light is within the corridor, and both on monitor 3 and monitor 1, the vehicle size is actually correct with respect to the vehicle. The light offset from the circle, monitor 3, we have, I would say, 1 with forward and 1.5 with starboard. Monitor 1, I would say So on monitor 1, we have the same as monitor 3, and a circle offset from the corridor. On monitor 3, we have we'll call it 1 word forward and 1.5 starboard. On monitor 1, it's essentially the same. On monitor 3, yes, we do see on monitor 1, I'm sorry, we see the vehicle position reversed, but is converging.
All right, Paolo, thanks for the report. We'll have a think about it.
And just to summarize what I said before, a lot of reports, but essentially the vehicle seems very stable, coming in nicely, and it behaves according to the briefing, so we see no problems.
We copy that, Paolo. Thank you.
You can see the Dragon capsule looking fairly close to the International Space Station now, passing the 40-meter mark, again approaching that 30-meter holding point. You were just hearing Paolo Nespoli aboard the International Space Station relaying some of the telemetry data he was seeing to the ground. Responding back was Capcom Andreas Mogensen. Everything looking good so far to approach that 30-meter holding point. Teams here assessing just the progress of the Dragon capsule. Still looking ahead of schedule. Again, that capture time from 6 a.m. moved up to 5:53 a.m. Central Time. Once the Dragon reaches that 30-meter holding point, though, teams will assess the departure of the 30-meter holding point to go towards that capture point. From there, we will keep track and relay the information to you as to the capture time. Again, that is 5:53 a.m. Central Time as it currently stands. Beautiful shots as the sun glistens off the solar panels of the SpaceX Dragon, the International Space Station, and the Dragon approaching land right now, 252 statute miles above the Earth, now passing over the western country of Mali, that's on the western side of Africa. The Sahara starting to come into view. Dragon now 29 meters away from station. Stabilizing at that 30-meter holding point.
All right, Dragon is now at the 30-meter hold. We're going to perform some assessments here on the ground, and we will let you know shortly when you are go to proceed with step 4 in 1.102. So please stand by until then.
Your copy, standing by for your go on step 4. Thank you.
Confirmation from orbit, again, Paolo Nespoli and Jack Fisher aboard the International Space Station, confirming that Dragon is now holding at the 30-meter holding point, those two at the controls for the robotic arm. Once it gets into its capture position, the two of them will use the station's robotic arm to actually grapple the Dragon capsule that's scheduled again at 5:53 a.m. Central Time today. Here in Mission Control Houston, flight controllers will be analyzing the data, making sure that everything is good at the 30-meter holding point. It'll take about 10 minutes or so for ground teams to assess that. Then it will depart and get into its capture position. Again, the International Space Station and Dragon flying 17,500 miles per hour, about 252 statute miles above the Sahara right now.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 2 for Dragon.
Head on 2.
All right, you are go to confirm 30-meter hold per step 4 in 1.102, and you are also go to maneuver to high hover in step 3 of 1.110 Dragon capture.
Roger, copy. Go step 4 in 1.102 and step 3 in 1.110.
That's a good readback.
Current high range is 30 meters 78, and second dive is 30 meters and 63.
We copy, thank you.
Again, Paolo Nespoli aboard the International Space Station working with U.S. astronaut Jack Fisher at the Cupola Workstation, International Space Station, and Dragon capsule now at the northern end of Africa, passing over the Mediterranean Sea, approaching Greece. The information relayed from Paolo Nespoli and from Andreas Mogensen to Paolo Nespoli, going through those procedures at the 30-meter holding point, getting everything situated and prepared for them to be ready to capture the Dragon once it approaches its capture position, that being about 10-12, give or take a few meters away from the International Space Station, just enough distance to put the SSRMS, or the station's robotic arm, into motion to grab the Dragon. The International Space Station and Dragon now passing over the home country of Paolo Nespoli, Italy. You can just see the boot at the top of your screen there. You're looking at sort of an upside-down view of the Earth as the International Space Station and Dragon travel 17,500 miles above the Earth, zooming around just 253 statute miles above the Earth right now. Plenty of science experiments on board. We talked about the CREAM experiment that will be looking at cosmic ray particles, as well as experiments dealing with protein crystal growth. In addition, there will be some also nanosatellites, or more appropriately microsatellites. An experiment called Kestrel I will be testing microsatellite capability. Investigation is looking to validate the concept of microsatellites for critical operations, such as providing lower cost Earth imagery and time-sensitive situations such as tracking severe weather and detecting natural disasters.
Here's the station on step 3 for procedure 1.110. We are about to proceed with the auto sequence.
Yeah, we copy, and we see good load.
Dragon and the space station now passing over Greece, getting good confirmation, good words from Paolo Nespoli, relaying the information he's seeing from this workstation that you're seeing right now. The Cuckoo relaying telemetry data that's taking a look at Dragon as it approaches the International Space Station right now, currently holding at the 30-meter holding point here in Mission Control Houston, getting ready to assess the departure of that 30-meter holding point, getting into capture position. That capture time is, again, we are still running a bit ahead of schedule. Everything looking nominal through the procedures as the flight controllers are going through them today. Looking at a capture time of 5:53 a.m. Central Time. The International Space Station now over the Middle East, actually just passing over the northern border of Turkey, over the Black Sea right now. We're expecting that the International Space Station and Dragon will be in an orbital sunset at time of capture. Video communications that are being relayed from the International Space Station. Those cameras now switching satellites. You'll see a small gap in video communications here now, just for a few seconds, perhaps a few minutes, and also once again in a couple more minutes for a longer period of time. Just nominal operations, just the what's called KU, the video signal, just a short gap in communications there. What you were seeing beforehand, the view was a view from the SSRMS, or what we call the robotic arm. Robotic arm was in motion, getting a better position to view the Dragon capsule. Dragon sitting at about 30 meters away from the International Space Station now. Looks like we're gaining some telemetry. Once it stabilizes, we'll cut to that for you. In just a few minutes here, the the flight controllers here at Mission Control Houston will assess whether or not to depart that 30-meter holding point where Dragon sits right now. Then they'll relay information up to the International Space Station that they have begun movement towards the capture position. Again, Jack Fisher and Paolo Nespoli aboard the International Space Station inside the cupola. In their hands are the controls of the robotic arm, getting ready to capture Dragon today. We're looking at a capture time again of 5:53 a.m. Central Time. Dragon sitting at about 30 meters away from the International Space Station, carrying about 3 tons of scientific experiments and research and supplies. And we went through a couple of them today.
One SSRMS is in the high over position.
Thanks, Paolo. We copy SSRMS in high hover position.
Confirmation from aboard the International Space Station, what's called the SSRMS, as Paolo Nespoli described. That's the station's robotic arm, is in position. Everything's set to depart the 30-meter holding point. Flight controllers here now going around the room, assessing whether or not to depart that 30 meters. That will be relayed to the International Space Station here shortly.
Houston Station and 2 for Dragon capture.
Go ahead, Paolo.
We are complete with step 3.3, and the crew is ready for Dragon approach to capture point.
Copy that, Paolo. We'd like to ask you to put the brakes on SSRMS, please.
The brakes are on.
Thanks. Station Houston on Space Ground 2 for Dragon.
Go ahead for Dragon.
All right, Dragon is ready to proceed to the capture point. You can expect approach to resume shortly.
Station copy, thanks.
That was Capcom Andreas Mogensen here in Mission Control Houston, relaying that the Dragon capsule will be departing the 30-meter holding point shortly, heading towards the capture position about 10 or so meters away from the International Space Station. Sitting next to him was Flight Director Mary Lawrence, leading the teams here today.
Station Houston on Space Ground 2 for Dragon.
For Dragon.
All right, Dragon has begun its approach from 30 meters, and you are go to monitor per step 5 in 1.102.
Just step 5 in 1.102 is in work.
You can see Dragon departing the 30-meter holding point, now heading towards the capture position. Just a few meters away from the International Space Station, about 10, 12, give or take a few meters away. Now losing some video communications here. That was done before, the command to depart the 30-meter holding point was done before losing communications here. We'll regain communications here in just a few minutes. In the meantime, Dragon on its way to the captured position, Paolo Nespoli and Jack Fisher and the International Space Station at the controls of the robotic arm.
For corridor monitoring on step 5, we see the mode and prior range decreasing. Current prior is 2876, current secondary is 2884. And we do see the light within the corridor. Vehicle size is nominal relative to the outline, and light offset is half and half starboard on both monitors.
Thanks, Paolo. That's all good data.
CCP left configuration is nominal.
Copy, thanks.
As the view of Dragon was lost as it just temporarily as we were switching over communications, Paolo Nespoli relaying good information, everything looking nominal as Dragon approached the International Space Station towards that capture position, just a few meters away from the International Space Station, about 10, 12, give or take a few meters. Dragon now resuming its approach, now just about to cross the 27-meter mark towards that capture position, carrying 6,000 pounds of supplies, experiments, and hardware aboard. It may be difficult to tell, but Dragon is slowly making its way towards the International Space Station at a rate of about 0.02 meters per second, now approaching the capture position, which is about 10 to 12 meters away from the International Space Station. Again, about 3 tons, actually 6,400 pounds of experiment supplies and hardware aboard. We've talked about some of the experiments aboard. Another one is an experiment called lung tissue. The experiment will actually take a look at stem cells that have been recellularized to become lung tissue, just to see how that stem cell turns into lung tissue in microgravity and how those cells are characterized, and studying that framework. Once on board, the tissue has the ability to mimic the lung tissue and have the potential for testing drugs or chemical toxicity by biotechnology or pharmaceuticals aboard. Again, many experiments aboard, some with stem cells. We have microsatellites, investigations looking at protein crystals to help with Parkinson's disease, as well as experiments studying the fascinating parts of the universe. One in particular, CREAM, taking a look at cosmic rays. Lots of experiments aboard the International Space Station almost soon. Capture time still towards 5:53 a.m. Central Time today. Dragon is just 22 meters away from the station, approaching its capture position about 10 or 12 meters away from the International Space Station. You're now seeing both the ISS and Dragon about to enter an orbital sunset. ISS and Dragon now on the eastern coast of China, about to pass over the East China Sea just south of Japan into an orbital nighttime. We're expecting that the capture today will occur during that orbital nighttime.
Houston Station on 2 for Dragon, prior range 20 meters, secondary 2015, and no change on the corridor monitoring, and actually I would say converging.
Thanks, Paulo. We copy all that. Sounds good.
Paolo Nespoli from aboard the International Space Station. Again, he's at the controls of the station's robotic arm next to Jack Fisher, relaying that the telemetry from the Dragon is looking good. The two are prepared with the station's robotic arm to capture the Dragon once it arrives at the capture position, and they receive the go from teams here on the ground. The last of the sunlight illuminating Dragon and station as it passes over the East China Sea, just south of Japan, into orbital nighttime, 250 miles above the Earth, traveling 17,500 miles per hour. Again, the last of the sunlight illuminating Dragon and the International Space Station, both over the Philippine Sea now on a southeasterly course down the Pacific Ocean right now. Dragon just crossed the 16-meter mark away from the International Space Station, approaching the capture position about 10 or 12 meters away from the International Space Station. Again, once in position, the Jack Fisher and will use the controls next to Paolo Nespoli, who's relaying the information down here to the ground to move the station's robotic arm into position and capture the Dragon and the 3 tons of cargo aboard.
And BV range is prime 1486, secondary 1490, and nominal on the corridor monitoring.
Thanks, Paolo. We copy.
You can see Dragon still closing in on that capture position, slowly but surely. Station's robotic arm poised, ready for capture as the Dragon approaches the capture position. Now almost about 13 meters away from the International Space Station. The lights from Dragon starting to illuminate as the sun sets on the station, as the station and Dragon are over the Philippine Sea, now in an orbital nighttime.
Station Houston on space to ground 2 for Dragon.
Go ahead for Dragon.
All right, you can confirm capture point hold per step 6 and 1.102.
As you copy, we see PV mode CP hold. Prime range is 10.79er, secondary 10.80, and CCP let config is nominal.
We copy, thank you.
Paolo Nespoli from the cupola aboard the International Space Station, confirming that Dragon is holding at its capture position, just about 10.8 meters away from the International Space Station. Now positioned, flight controllers will assess whether or not to capture the Dragon. About to go around and do a go, no-go.
Step 6, we are ready. Let's say the capture condition is confirmed and we are ready for Dragon capture.
Thanks, Paolo. We copy. Please stand by for capture.
Roger, copy, standing by.
Ground teams assessing whether or not to go or no go for the capture of Dragon today. We're aiming for 5:53 a.m. Central Time. However, we will continue to update you as to the updating capture time this morning. Once Jack Fisher uses the station's controls, him working with Paolo Nespoli aboard the International Space Station, uses the controls for the robotic arm to move towards SpaceX's Dragon to capture the cargo vehicle. We'll be relaying some telemetry data as it comes in, how far it is away from the capture position, whether it's over the pin, and when the snares are grappled, then read the official capture time to you. Again, Jack Fisher and Paolo Nespoli in the cupola now at the workstation, using the station's controls to capture Dragon here shortly.
Station Houston on 2 for Dragon.
Head for Dragon.
All right, we have a go for capture sequence, and you have a go to perform step 4 in 1.110 Dragon capture. And at this point, please begin monitoring the backaway cue card.
Roger, copy. We'll start procedure 1.110 step 4, monitoring the backaway cue card.
Flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston are go. Flight controllers in Hawthorne, California at SpaceX's Mission Control Center are also go, relaying information to Paolo Nespoli and Jack Fisher aboard the International Space Station. They are also go to move the station's robotic arm and capture Dragon. Now working through the procedures to move the station's robotic arm into position. The Dragon, now currently holding at its capture position, will start seeing the view from here, from the end of the station's robotic arm. There's a camera here. We'll start to see that get closer and closer as Jack Fisher uses the controls to move the station's robotic arm into its capture position on the SpaceX Dragon, that little triangle you see there, that metal disc in the middle. Expecting to see the station's robotic arm move here shortly. Dragon holding at about 11.3 meters away from the International Space Station.
Use the station on 2 for Dragon capture. We are at the end of step 4.2, proceeding with capture.
Copy, Paolo.
Station's robotic arm now in motion, getting ready to capture the Dragon here shortly. Four meters away from capture. 3 meters from capture. Dragon holding at about 11.4 meters away from station. Two meters from capture. One and a half meters, everything looking good so far. One meter away. One pin. Over the pin. Trigger. And that is confirmed capture 5:52 a.m. Central Time, just north over New Zealand, over the Pacific Ocean. Again, 5:52 a.m. Central Time.
Station on 2 for 1.110 Dragon capture. Capture complete. Go for post-capture reconfiguration.
Thanks Nice work. Congratulations on a job well done. You guys have just won yourself some fresh food.
It sounds like a plan. And Houston, I really love the honor of being able to catch a cargo vehicle because of what it represents. Today has special significance because SpaceX-12 is the last flight on the original cargo resupply contract, and this, the 36th flight of a Dragon, stands as a testament to a burgeoning commercial industry that has become a pillar support to NASA's, heck, all of humanity's quest to explore the universe. It also represents yet another shining example of international cooperation in the storied legacy of the International Space Station. For example, in Dragon's trunk, it carries a cosmic ray energetics and mass experiment that will investigate cosmic ray origins and properties. This ambitious experiment is an international collaboration involving partners from the U.S., Korea, Mexico, and France, and that is only the tip of the iceberg. Aboard this wonderful Dragon awaits 6,400 pounds of cargo, mostly science, that will investigate everything from nanotechnology to the growth of lung tissue to a protein crystal experiment investigating Parkinson's disease, and many, many more. Thanks to our incredibly talented and professional worldwide team that provides the resources, monitors systems, and orchestrates our activities on board, we will be able to conduct more than 250 experiments over expeditions 52 and 53 with the science this Dragon holds in its belly. The crew stands ready to rock the science like a boss, standing aside our amazing ground team of scientists, engineers, and support personnel. With that, we need to get back to work. We got a Dragon to unload.
Well said, Two Fish.
Some congratulatory words from aboard. Again, Jack Fisher at the controls for the station's robotic arm used to capture the Dragon today. That capture time, 5:52 a.m. Central Time over the Pacific Ocean, just north off the coast of New Zealand. Some congratulatory words from Jack Fisher. Looking forward to unloading those 6,400 pounds of cargo, including science experiments, hardware, and other supplies aboard, including what Capcom Andreas Mogensen alluded to, some fresh food aboard the SpaceX cargo vehicle today. Again, that capture time, 5:52 a.m. Central Time, grabbed by Jack Fisher aboard the International Space Station, working with Paolo Nespoli in the Cupola workstation after launching just 2 days ago on Monday, August 14th at 11:31 a.m. Central Time. Again, capture at 5:52 a.m. Central Time today, August 16th. That'll wrap up our coverage of grapple operations for the commercial resupply mission 12 of SpaceX's Dragon cargo vehicle. We plan to come back on the air at 7:30 a.m. Central Time today to cover the installation of the CRS-12 SpaceX Dragon to berth to the International Space Station on the Nader port, the Earth-facing side of the Harmony module. That may come early, as the operations today hint at. We captured the Dragon just a little bit ahead of schedule today. We may come on the air early, but again, we're aiming for coming back on the air 7:30 a.m. Central Time to give you coverage of installation. Captured today, 5:52 a.m. Central Time, of the SpaceX Dragon on its commercial resupply mission 12. That'll do it for us here. This is Mission Control Houston.